Liverpool 1, Manchester City 2. Now, we were doing Game Day Live on Sunday, and Crook told us that it was all over and that Michael Carrick was getting out his cigar because there was going to be an unbelievable turn of events in Manchester, and Manchester United were going to eclipse Manchester City. And then Manchester City scored twice, and the title race is on. So 6 points back now. And we spoke to Pep Guardiola afterwards, and he's pretty clear, Scott, that they're going to go for it.
Yeah, absolutely, and why not? And I think when Szoboszlai stepped up and scored that goal in such a tight game, and it's gone so late already, and there's only been that one goal, and one bit of genius, one bit of brilliance makes a difference, just like it did with Arsenal. You're thinking, well, City at best may get an equaliser, but they're not going to go on and win this game, and the gap would be 8 points or maybe even 9, and it's going to be too far. So, look. Every game only gives 3 points, but some games just give a little bit more. And psychologically, that could be absolutely massive for City and the title race.
Okay, so there's a lot to get into in this game. Let's start with the big refereeing decisions and the controversy that has been caused. First of all, you spoke to Arne Slot after the game, and he thinks the big turning point is when Mark Guéhi isn't sent off for hauling down Mo Salah.
Yeah, and actually, I think he used what happened at the end with the disallowed goal and the red card for Dominic Szoboszlai, who, again, for me, underline why he's been Liverpool's most important player this season. He used that to highlight the inconsistencies because he said, I've got no problem with Szoboszlai being sent off. The referee has applied the laws. Sunderland the big winners because it means he can't play in that game in midweek. But if you're going to send Szoboszlai off for denying a clear goal-scoring opportunity, you have to do the same with Mark Guéhi. Earlier in the game, it was 0-0 at that point. It was tight. You would imagine that Liverpool, potentially, if Guéhi had been dismissed, could go on and win the game. Certainly, they wouldn't have lost it. You wouldn't have thought.
Only 5% of people think Mark Guéhi shouldn't have been sent off, said Arne Slot to us after the game. And they all work at the PGMO. Scott?
Well, I said to you at the time, I must be working at the PGMO then, because I said, I think you can make an argument of Ruben Diaz can get across. I think I also said you can make an argument that he couldn't. And if you're not quite sure, then you go with the referee's call. I don't see how you can properly compare the two. One is a 50-50, maybe 40-60 that Salah will get a shot off. The other one, he's rugby tackled him, or maybe even, I don't know what the American football term is, but he's absolutely taken Erling Haaland out, really, isn't he? So, not quite comparing the two. And I listened to the interview as well that Crookie did with him. He was quite happy to talk about the Mark Guéhi incident. And then he said, but I don't want to talk about the rest.
Well, I'll tell you what, before we get into the rest, which was the big controversial incident at the end of the game, chaos ensues. They think they've scored Manchester City, a clinching goal at 3-1, right at the very end. Alisson, God knows what he's doing. He's forgotten he's a goalkeeper. He thinks he's playing in midfield or in attack for Liverpool at this point. He's left the goal open at the other end, and they score. Cherki rolls the ball from the halfway line. It goes all the way in. There's a tussle between Szoboszlai and Haaland. Neither of them touch it. It goes into the net. The goal initially is given. Everybody spills onto the pitch from the Manchester City bench. There's actually supporters that come onto the pitch that have to be wrestled off. It kicks off massive. Everyone tells me that it sounded like we were three very excitable schoolboys getting well into it, which we were because it was absolute chaos, but brilliant chaos at the same time. Then the goal gets disallowed. Now, before we pick apart the decision, let's speak to a man who knows well whether or not this should have been the case. Former Premier League referee Dermot Gallagher was on the final word with Majestic and Alan Pardew minutes after the decision had been made. And this is how he explained it.
We're all happy, if you think about it, when Haaland's pulled back because the ball's still going in the net.
Yes.
He hasn't denied a goal. He hasn't. If it dribbles in the net, everyone goes, okay, yeah, he's played advantage.
But it wouldn't have gone in the net, would it? Because he would have cleared it off the line if Haaland didn't foul him.
And that's the point. Because
Yeah.
then...
And that's my point. That's exactly my point. It wouldn't have gone in net because Haaland has then fouled Szoboszlai. So therefore, because that foul has occurred, you have to penalise. But the only reason that foul occurred is because the first one was by Szoboszlai.
Makes sense.
Which which occurred to the red card, which is why you default back to the original.
So yeah,
one.
it's like a chain reactions happens that because
100%.
because
Yeah,
we've
I
seen
know,
that
I get
second.
that. I understand the logic of it. I mean, it ain't like, rocket science. I understand the logic of it. But my point is, the ball did go in the net.
But it
Right.
wasn't going in the net.
Unless he was fouled.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the key
So
issue,
therefore,
isn't
we all go back and get a guy sent off and the goal gets chalked off and we have a free kick on the edge.
it? and
That's my point.
As week in, week out, Al, poor
Yeah.
old VAR gets a right
Yeah,
good kick in.
Yeah, of course.
Right. That is absolute bollocks. With all due respect, that is absolute nonsense. It is. It is. I'm sorry. And I know I'm going to be bleeped out there, but I don't care. And I'll tell you why. Because the explanation of this decision is that there is a foul by Dominic Szoboszlai on Haaland. And then Haaland fouls Dominic Szoboszlai. No. There is no foul on Dominic Szoboszlai by Haaland if Dominic Szoboszlai doesn't foul him first. The only reason we have the second foul is because of the foul committed by the Liverpool player in the first place. So you can quite happily play the advantage and allow the ball to go into the net, because guess what? We came to see goals. We came to see decisive moments in title races. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous to me to think that this goal can be disallowed because of a foul that only happens because the other guy committed a foul in the first place. It's absolute nonsense.
You're a little bit hot under the collar about this one, aren't you? I think what it does do, it makes a mockery of what we've been watching for years and believing to be the rules of football. It basically takes away the idea of the advantage rule. Because, as you say, Erling Haaland has been fouled first. Play continues. The ball ends up in the back of the net. Haaland doesn't actually end up touching it. And they've brought the play back for the earlier foul. Well, there's no advantage there to the attacking team, is there?
Absolutely none. And actually, if you read the rule on advantage, it actually, I mean, there was some suggestion and we were obviously trying to get clarification. I mean, as far as I understand it, the VAR told the ref that they checked it for a foul by Haaland, and in picking up the foul by Haaland, they realised that there was a foul by Szoboszlai. I mean, as if you couldn't see that in the first place. The referee had already played the advantage as far as I was concerned. And it would have been a dog so and therefore a red, so he had to put it back. We were told initially, and I don't know who this was who told TalkSport this, that you can't play advantage with a red card, which is absolute nonsense, because the law says if the referee plays an advantage for an offence where a caution or a sending off would have been issued had play been stopped, then the caution or the sending off must be issued as soon as the ball is out of play. So clearly you can play advantage when a red card could be administered. It's absolute nonsense, Scott. We're taking the joy out of football. We're finding ways to disallow goals. And this was a massive moment. And I tell you this is a real story. This actually happened. It's true. Crook will verify it. He was in the tunnel. This is not a lie. They're doing the interviews after the game, and Pep Guardiola is talking to Crook. He finishes with Crook, and I jump in and I said, Pep, what happens if you lose out to Arsenal in terms of the title on goal difference by 1 goal? What happens? And he says, what do you mean? I said, that decision has cost you a goal. If you lose the title because of that goal, how are you going to react to that? And he said to me, go back and look at all of the decisions. Go back and look at them all. I said, but this decision is key. If you end up losing on goal difference, the title to Arsenal, how are you going to react? He said to me, don't worry, we'll score more goals.
I can vouch for that. We didn't get it on tape because I thought the interviews were over, so I stopped recording. I didn't expect him to try and nick my job and gate crash the interview.
Well, ask the right questions.
I'm going to let you two bicker for a while. I mean, I listened on the way home to Madge and Pards and Dermot as well. And Pards was saying it's not rocket science. I think it is, because I'm totally confused. I've got to be honest with you. Look, just from a football point of view, we want to see goals, and one foul should negate the other. So therefore, allow the goal. But what they are saying is, yes, they could have played the advantage and allowed the goal, but the goal didn't go in until Haaland fouled Szoboszlai. So therefore, you can't ignore that one.
But he couldn't have fouled Szoboszlai if Szoboszlai hadn't pulled him back in the first place, because Szoboszlai isn't as fast as Haaland and he would be nowhere near him.
And we saw that. And I think if the three of us were given a 30-yard head start, none of us would have got anywhere near Haaland, and probably wouldn't have been able to pull him back either. You're preaching to the converted, Sam. From a football
Good.
point of view, everyone, including Manchester City and Liverpool, would have been probably happier to allow the goal, Szoboszlai not be sent off, and therefore he's not suspended, because you were literally seconds away from the game anyway.
Well, that's what Pep said to you.
Yeah, and Arne Slot to a certain extent. As I say, he said Reggie Labrie and Sunderland will be delighted, because I think he is probably Liverpool's most important player. And Pep, as you say, went along with that and said it's not fair that they've now not got Szoboszlai for a game. Yeah, it's all baffling, and that decision could be huge, because it could come down to goal difference. I think you made the point actually that if the goal had stood, would Liverpool have also dropped a place?
They dropped below Brentford
in the league table, below Brentford. So
it's not just the title race; it's also European places. If this was the final day of the season, we'd be talking about this for months.
Yeah, and it could come back to be so crucial. But that last 15 minutes, Scott's right. I still think Arsenal go on and win the league. But the way that the City fans were celebrating, the way the players reacted, the way that Pep reacted, they feel it's a big moment. And I pointed out on air, when they got the equaliser, Bernardo Silva's immediate reaction was to go and fetch the ball from the back of the net.
You did, yeah.
So they clearly believe they could still go and win the game, as they did. But there's so many potential big moments. Obviously, the penalty, the winning goal, the brilliant save that Donnarumma made to deny McAllister when it would have been 2-2, and I'd have got a correct score prediction for charity. We won't bring that up. The Mark Gay decision not to send him off, and obviously the goal ruled out at the end. These are all massive, massive details that come the end of the season could be absolutely huge.
Absolutely. Honestly, it was an unbelievable game. And do you know what? Someone said to me afterwards that it was the best ending to a Premier League football match that they can remember. And I do feel like
I think maybe Sergio Aguero is saying "hold my beer" on that one.
Yeah, but I mean, it wasn't me; it was somebody else. But the best moment for me was, as we were talking through the situation, was there was this little voice in my ear from hundreds of miles away going, "What? as if their balls had been grabbed by someone. Scott,
Apologies for that. I mean, look, again, I quickly watched back on TV, and you know, Gary Neville was saying the same thing. I listened to Pards, and Pards was saying the same thing. And we're all saying the same thing. We're all saying it's about goals. One foul negates the other. And look, they're 6 points behind Arsenal. If they are to gain those 6 points, they've obviously got to win more games, and probably will win them by more as well. So naturally, the goal difference will get closer. But it's not as if they're on 32 and Arsenal on 27 in terms of the goal difference, and therefore it probably won't make a difference. This could be the difference. But look, we're probably being a little bit dramatic in that sense. What I would say is...
But we loved it. It was great drama. It was great passion. It was great emotion. We felt it. We were there. It was wonderful. Everybody was talking about it. Everybody's feeling that moment, Scott. It was great, wasn't it? It was brilliant. So we can get excited about it. That's what it's about. That's what football does to you. It grips you. It takes you into a dimension that you shouldn't go. It makes you sing like Mariah Carey.
That's the only time I'll be compared to her. Look, we let's just say we averaged just under 50. We were schoolboys again, weren't we? Just jumping up and down. Whether Liverpool was our team, whether City was our team, we absolutely loved it. And I do think that was a big win. If, and it's a big if City are to go on and win the title, they will look back at that one moment, this one game, these 15 minutes of towards the end of this match at Anfield, where they very rarely win, and say that was the moment that turned it for us.
Because actually the game was sort of a microcosm of where City have been at of late. They dominated in the first half. They missed some big chances. Haaland probably should have scored after 2 minutes. Liverpool weren't at the races in the first half. Half time comes around. I don't know what happens to Manchester City during that 15 minutes at the moment, but Liverpool come back out for the second half. It's a completely different game. They've had chances before Szoboszlai scores his worldie, and then somehow City summon up the power to come back and take the lead. It was an incredible spectacle, and obviously big ramifications, not just in terms of the title race potentially, but in terms of that race to get in the top 5 in Champions League football, because Liverpool have got very little margin for error now. They're 4 points behind 5th place. They go to Sunderland, who haven't lost at home all season, without their best player. Manchester United played 24 hours earlier. Chelsea have got a game that I think most people would expect them to win. If that gap to the top 5 becomes 7 points after this midweek, it's not just a big moment for Manchester City, it's a big one for Liverpool as well.
It absolutely is. And just to pick you up on a couple of points, Scott, it's not the first time or last time that you've been compared to Mariah Carey, because I'm sure someone has told you that all they want for Christmas is you, and that you're a dream lover. But also the second point that you said, that we're averaging under 50. Well, we are pulling you down there, fella. That's absolutely true. Also, it is the first time that Manchester City have won after conceding first in the league this season, and it has been Achilles' heel actually, where they've conceded the first goal. They haven't been able to come up with a comeback, but they did that today. So I think it could be a turning point, and for Liverpool, it could be massive, Scott, and especially in terms of the future of Arne Slot, because it's also the first time this season that they've lost when scoring first.
I just think, I mean, for me, the couple of the stats you came out with, one of each side, the bigger one is Manchester City. We know how bad they've been in the second half this calendar year already, but they found a way to win at what most people say is the most difficult place to go and get a victory. But for Liverpool, and I'm an Arne Slot fan. I think he's such a classy guy, and clearly he is a very good coach. But with the turn of events that we've all discussed, people might say he should have dealt with it better. Liverpool are where they are. Now, I think this last season was sensational, but if he doesn't finish in a Champions League place, and that's looking like top 5, then I think there's every chance he could lose his job in the summer, especially with someone like Xabi Alonso waiting in the wings. I don't want it to happen, although that then means, because obviously I want Chelsea to finish in the top 5, that a certain other club finishes outside it. But what a fight we've got. And it's unless he wins the Champions League, even if he wins the FA Cup, that's not going to be good enough. Liverpool Football Club have to be playing Champions League football on a yearly basis.